I kind of look at it from a defense perspective. The Western world wants the benefit of the US being their ally and take advantage of the military might, but they don't want to pay for it.
So the US Supreme Court was given the wrong numbers. The unwind in the event of a negative decision on tariffs would be including investments made and returns of funds in excess of $3 trillion. It would not be possible to ever make up that kind of drubbing. That would truly become an insurmountable national security event and devastating to the future of our country, possibly non-sustainable. So my guess, Derek, and I'll get you to clarify this one, this is about the Supreme Court's decision to not allow Trump to continue with these tariffs.
Yeah, in a certain sector. I mean, it doesn't affect all tariffs to my knowledge, but there's a certain sector under one piece of legislation, they said that's not able to do that. The vote was 6-3 in favor of voting, that wasn't possible. Trump's just turned around and basically raised world tariffs globally to 15%, unless they had a different kind of arrangement with Trump. And some, did, and it affects them anyway, like Australia and England, to that level. And think about it from a couple of perspectives. This is his major economic play here of reducing taxes in America and getting the rest of the world to pay their fair share, as he kind of says, not in those words, but we've been taken advantage of for years, and now it's time to do that. And I kind of look at it from a defense perspective. The Western world wants the benefit of the US being their ally and take advantage of the military might, but they don't want to pay for it. And I think, Trump's going, well, we now have to act in our own interests here, sorry, but the charity's over as far as that's concerned, unless it's genuine charitable need. And the Supreme Court voted in that way upon a different section. So his references there, the question now becomes, how will they pay the money back to these companies if that is required to? What's interesting about this is that, one, that hasn't been defined. Two, it would take a process. How do you calculate that amount going through? But thirdly, there have been some companies that have already tried to put in lawsuits ahead of this ruling so that they can make those kind of claims. Okay, one particular company being Costco, and trying to be able to unwind that because Costco is a company that imports from all over the place. So it's really affecting importers. And Trump moving forward wants this play to still be in place so that they're protecting manufacturing within the United States. And of course, stimulating their economy and attracting more investments, which they already have done. The trillions, about, the last count I heard was 17 trillion, and that could be higher now. That was back at Christmas time, of how much funds they've attracted into the country. So it's going to be interesting to watch how that plays out. And if they would have to refund that, well, I think raising the rates immediately is actually a smart play, because you've got to get the money somewhere in case that does happen, because that money's got to be paid back. If that money has to be paid back, you want to make sure that you increased your revenues elsewhere so that can be avoided. But I think the biggest loser in all of this is the American taxpayer, because they're the ones that now could possibly face the fate of, we've got to pay these debts back to these different companies. And I think Americans are starting to wake up and go, well, hang on, this system, who's Trump working for here, or the system? And I think it's going to put more people on alert, because it just increases the already incredible debt that the US actually has.
So to me, I think this is this sort of lawsuit is, or the taking it to the Supreme Court. This came from a Democrat. Like this screams Democrats all over it. I think they've just shot themselves in the foot with this one. So Trump was already talking about paying tariff dividends to the US citizens, saying I think it was about $3,000 they were planning to give to each US citizen, which is a huge thing. The surplus has also been putting into the kids' accounts that they're doing and stuff like that. So there was a lot of good that these tariffs were doing for the American people. If they're forced to pay back the money doesn't go to the US people. It goes to like you said, the corporations that were doing this. A lot of Americans, like Australians, are really, really struggling financially in the cost of living crisis. So I see them talking about the cost of living in America, and then I see it in Australia. I'm like, dude, you have no idea how good you have it right now. But compared to what they're used to, this is a big issue for America as well. all it's going to do is put all this money back in the pocket of the corporations and give the corporations huge amounts of money. Now, my question is, how many of these corporations do they sponsor the Democrats? How many of these corporations have been pushing to try and support the Democrats going forward? We have the midterms coming up. All this is going to show is that this action done by the Democrats is just to favor their corporate mates, is not to help the American people. My second question is, if two countries have already agreed to a tariff negotiation, does this Supreme Court ruling come into effect if both countries have already agreed to a deal?
Look, these are great questions, and they're legal matters that have to be looked at the high level. So, because there are different rules around tariffs within the Constitution, what they can do, that's going to be looked at. I think a lot of it is under what the president can do under emergency status and what he can move and act upon without Congress's approval. And so if the Congress then turns around and approves it or passes legislation where he can do that moving forward, then they may go down that path. But we'll just have to wait and see how they play this out.
Final thoughts, Derek. Do you think between what's going on with the Genius Act, the tariffs, the tax on the tariffs and all this sort of stuff, let's make this final thoughts political. Republicans or Democrats? Who's going to win and why?
In the midterms, is that what you're asking?
Midterms. Seeing what's going on lately, in the midterms, do you think the Democrats are going to win or the Republicans and why?
I think the Republicans are going to win. I don't think the Democrats. I think they've got a massive image problem. Yeah, they might speak louder, but I think that the heart of America is the landslide which Trump won, and he just keeps winning. I think Americans are going to see that. What are the Democrats standing for right now, right? And there's so many bombshells that are being dropped off on a political front that can't be ignored, that are just showing those who have not had the best interests of America are really getting shown up right now. And I think that's just too hard to ignore and too hard to hide and too big to not report, that even the mainstream media cannot ignore it. So, for example, the whole Jeffrey Epstein file download and that sort of stuff that the Democrats demanded Trump release. Well, okay, fine, we'll do that. It was cleverly played. And people are now getting to find out, all right, you want the truth, here it is, bang. So I think, the truth will set you free. And I think this is the age where a lot of what has been hidden is now in the light. And I think that's what is working in their favor. Those on the right side are getting, revealed for what they really were or are. Yep.
So for me, it's, how would I word this one? I think absolutely that the Republicans are going to piss it in. They're going to absolutely smash it, in my opinion. I think the internet has been the great divider between the Democrats and the Republicans in this debacle. All the fact checkers and all that sort of stuff have always been leaning towards the Democrats, trying to say, hey, these guys are so great. The internet's allowed people to check it for themselves, to put the pressure on themselves, create their podcasts like Edge Radio, so many different shows out there, The Arc with Turning Point Australia, Turning Point US. People have been able to find out the truth for themselves. And that's one of the reasons why back in Germany in 1940, I think it was 1939, whatever, they started burning all the books and really controlling the media. They can't do that anymore. So I think people will wake up, they'll make up their own mind, and the media just has to follow suit now. I think the podcasters and the independents are going to absolutely smash it in and make sure that America stays free. So that's my 2 cents. So again, Derek, once again, the greater wealth, not only just financial wealth, but also political and personal, emotional wealth. Loved having you on the show. Been great. EdgeRadioAustralia.com. .com. So tune in. We do replays on the weekends. Derek, thank you once again, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for having me, Travis.